and welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho, and we are looking at all kinds of crazy activity going on. We are broadcasting live once again from the banks of the River Styx, and I'm turning on my bug lights here because even though only the blood can save us now, I still trying to keep away these Stygian mosquitoes. They're bad for one's health. And yes, welcome everybody to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. This is SNN. We're looking at the sun here in 193 angstroms, one of the ionized wavelengths of a specific ionized type of iron. Yes, the UV emission spectra of very, very hot iron plasma. We see a pair of sunspots, both beta class setting in the southwest. And for you new viewers, the southwest is down here. And we see some active regions rising as well. Lots of crazy stuff going on. Significant increase in the radio flux. Before we move on, we've got some amazing Helio viewer movies today, thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content, as we're paid next to nothing to put these videos on YouTube. We'll tell you why in our Smash Lights segment, so make sure you catch that. Again, thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for these videos. Please consider becoming a patron, as we need lots more funding to accomplish our 2020 goals. By the way, last year we forecasted a year of clarity for this year. Patreon.com/smashamash. And here come a series of fantastic Helio viewer movies. We're going to start out with a full disc view of the sun. Now we're looking at 171 angstroms. My personal favorite wavelength, probably, I would say, although each wavelength has its own sort of features. There are pros and cons, yes. And we're going to look at 304 angstroms next. First, let me just check the life of the stream. We are streaming live. It's twitch.tv/smashamash. If you want to catch the broadcasts in their live state, you can see them there. Here's 304 angstroms, and I would note a significant plasma filament here up in between the equator and the North Pole. So if you look right here, the sun's got a bit of a hairdo going on here, and that's a pretty decent sized filament, and it's very difficult to see these things when looking at a very bright object. Because remember, folks, no matter how 3D it looks, an image is essentially two-dimensional. For all intents and purposes, it's two-dimensional. And this is part of the reason why we look at stereo A. We don't see any coronal mass ejections coming off since yesterday's video. Here's an active region rising in the southeast. And we're back to 171 angstroms again here. We've got an active region rising in the northeast. So all kinds of upticks in solar activity here. For all of you hoping and praying and hiding in a bunker thinking we're going to see zero sunspots, sorry, there's the data. Next, looking at this active region that created a bunch of coronal mass ejections. Now setting, it's not a sunspot, it's just an active region followed by a holy corona. Oh, it's a holy corona. Great view of that. And lastly, the highest res of all, looking at sunspot 2778 and sunspot 2779, which are practically overlapping. They're actually interacting a bit. And in my opinion, the chance of an M-class solar flare is actually higher for the next 24 hours. Once that finally sets, that probability will drop down. And it all has to do with the way the potential field force lines orient these areas of plasma. Whether or not those sunspots are increasing in size, degrading, or staying steady is anybody's guess now, because the view is getting distorted as a result of being not Earth-facing enough to see down into the dark umbral cores. Please leave a comment if you have a theory as to why sunspots are dark. NASA is still baffled about this. And we are delighted that there are some reasonable theories. Now, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux is still at 85. So there's thanks to Northwest Research Associates, Inc., you can see that sudden uptick in the radio flux depicted on that graph. And we haven't seen sunspot numbers as high as this since back in 2017, as we are at about 35 sunspots right now due to that large sunspot group. That's the largest group of cycle 25, which began just under a year ago. There's the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, and once again you can see we have not seen levels of 85 since October of 2017. So that's the highest radio flux we've seen in 3 years. And for you new viewers, the radio flux comes out of the outer solar corona. It was discovered in 1947 by some Canadians using World War II era radio technology. KP index has been holding steady here at 2 for the past 12 hours. Here's a 3-day X-ray flux graph, and again, don't be surprised to see a solar flare up in this range over the next 24 to 36 hours. I'll say 24 hours, as sunspot 2778 and 2779 set. They are still quite active, and they are still legit sunspots of fairly large size. Next, looking at the proton flux, nothing to really write home about there. Here's a real-time solar wind, and it's fairly uneventful. Current solar wind density 5.25 protons per cubic centimeter. Current solar wind speed 450 kilometers a second. Here's the magnetosphere. It's 4 hours of data. And it's fairly steady there. No real surprises, as so is the real-time solar wind. Over the past 24, fairly rank-and-file solar wind, creating fairly predictable geospace. Next, looking at the Earth, coming a little closer to home here, looking at ground magnetic perturbations. And we show this daily since we are currently in a polar excursion. Anyway, it's also 4 hours of data based on the space weather modeling framework. We do see some perturbations here, and keep in mind the solar wind speed is still slightly elevated at 450 kilometers a second. Next, looking at the GOES magnetometer, and this is looking a little more normal than it has been over the past couple of days. Here's a 7-day chart, and that's certainly some bad data right there. In any case, there's a 3-day chart, nothing to write home about there. Heliospheric current sheet. Solidly in the South Pole is the Earth's potential field force line, shown here in orange. And if you're wondering where stereo A and B are, that's stereo A and that's stereo B at Lagrange point 5 and Lagrange point 4. Lagrange point 3 is over here, where Nibiru is hiding on the other side of the sun. Please leave a comment if you're very scared and spooked that Nibiru is going to come and cause havoc. It's already peeking out from behind the sun. Sure it is. Okay, here's the line of sight field plot. It shows the Earth B field, and you can see it being pulled down in this direction a little bit here. It's all associated with those sunspots, and the B field, for you new viewers, is a net of the North Poloidal field and the South Poloidal field's interactions. Their net field is the B field. Similar to the Earth's, and we were actually looking at the Earth's in those ground geospace magnetic perturbations. Here is the potential field force line plot of the corona itself, which is the sun's atmosphere for you new viewers. And thanks for tuning in, by the way. And this is showing us coronal hole potential field force lines in purple, closed ones in pink, and open potential field force lines in black. We may see some anomalous data over here. We've seen a series of coronal hole potential field force lines showing up there on this model for days, but we don't see a coronal hole there. Now, today's Smash Lights, a standard part of the Smash News Network, will be postponed until later, as we're going to put out a second video, and the second video will be the Smash Lights segment. Look for that. It may include some groundbreaking information that you didn't think you'd hear on the channel ever. And we've got playlists about that also, youtube.com/Smash smAsho/playlists. Again, Smash Lights is a standard issue feature of the Smash News Network. And look for more of those videos coming, including one today. One other thing real quick, and we will talk about this again on the Smash Lights. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you may not see posts like this one about the Reader's Digest Great World Atlas from 1963. And by the way, we knew about cosmic rays in 1963. I didn't know about them until 1981 because I was only about 4 years old, 5 years old by then. That wasn't what I wanted to do at all. And this is a very interesting book. We're going to use it as a reference a few times, as it still contains some relevant information, believe it or not. Instagram.com/smAshomash. It's the official Instagram account of the Smash News Network. And if you're wondering why there's fire behind me, it's because the River Styx has been looking like lava. And for some reason, it has caught the studio on fire. By the way, if you want to read lots more stuff about cosmology, don't forget to head to smashomash.com/forum. There's an entire cosmology forum there. Tell your friends, tell your foes, science noobs and science pros about it. And by the way, last but not least, today's featured shirt is the MANSA shirt. Now I'm wearing one. And this is not political. This is about America sucking. So it's up to you to make America not suck again. Today's featured shirt is in Republican red, yes. If you pick up any of the products at Teespring, they're all discounted through October 31st. Get a 10% discount on checkout by entering the promo code MANSA. MANSA. Make America not suck again. The official slogan of the Smash News Network. Also, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to press like and subscribe on YouTube. Check out our playlists and so on. Press the notification bell. You may actually even get notifications when we make a video. We're also on BitChute. There are exclusives. Don't forget to watch our Banks of the River Styx BitChute exclusive Let's Talk Turkey Alt Tech is the Answer video, which is only available at bitchute.com/smashomash. There's also a video about hydroxychloroquine, which we put out on March 19th. And we're not going to talk about USA Today's hack, fraud, fear-mongering BS nonsense. That's going to be saved for the Smash Lights. So don't forget to watch that after the Daily Space Weather video. Next, looking at electron flux. And by the way, I just wanted to cite one little thing here. When we're talking about voltages, you're talking about electron density. And so the numbers that we show in this electron section, this is the electron density of these areas. And those are the numbers. We don't say it in units because the numbers are really crazy, because you're talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of electrons per cubic centimeter and so on. So we just leave the units out on this. So don't freak out about units on the electron flux. Anyway, there's the 1 year graph of it, and we actually didn't get as high a levels as were forecasted, which is a good thing because of charging hazards, although we still do see continued charging hazards over the southern hemisphere, and electron flux levels are still very high. Yesterday they reached about 16 times the warning levels, which are 1,000 pulse flux units. They get up to about 16,000 pulse flux units. There's the forecast, and we're expecting these to dip precipitously once the solar wind speed drops down, as we've been in a coronal hole wind stream for a few days here. And there you can see the 3-day chart of the electron flux, slightly lower levels yesterday, and that's a good thing because of the damage that it can do to satellites and the effects that it can have on communications and so on. Now, I did notice some missing data here on the total electron content forecast. It's 1 hour of missing data back here somewhere. Right there, it goes from 1430 to 1530. So don't lose your you-know-what over it. It's just missing data, and the electron flux itself can cause this missing data. We saw quite high levels there, it making it all the way up to 36 total electron content units, which is 10 to the 16th electrons per meter squared. So that's why we try to stay away from units on this. This is a visualization of the entire air column from the thermosphere to your handset. Theoretically, we saw significant electron flux anomalies there over North America and over the Eastern Pacific, as well as very high levels of non-anomalous electron flux over places like the Western Pacific. I'll let it play through one more time, and you can really accurately forecast GPS error levels by looking at that chart. Next, looking at just the ionosphere layer, and it's looking a little anomalous here. Bear with us a minute while the Smash News Network loads up this image. 10 demerits to you, Smash staff, for not having my ionospheric map loaded. 10 demerits and 50 lashes with a moist noodle. We're waiting. This data, by the way, is courtesy of the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And let me just check the life of the stream before we show that. Yeah, we are looking good. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Ha-ha! Please leave a comment if you've got brilliant ideas or even dumb ideas about how the ionosphere relates to earthquakes. So the ionosphere is looking anomalous here, actually. We used to only show 6 hours of this. Now we've upgraded our coverage to show the full 24 hours of it. And wait for it. No, it's looking pretty normal here. Nothing too crazy. A little bit charged up. Yeah, it's a little anomalous there. It's a little bit charged up at nighttime over the South Pacific especially. Surprisingly high frequency of the ionosphere. And this one is measured in megahertz, going back to the units thing. It's megahertz. Anyway, there's the latest image at 8 o'clock Universal Time, and you can see some anomalous stuff going on in the South Pacific. And it probably has to do with the South Atlantic anomaly, which is located somewhere around there where that X is. I like to use in-the-sky to make star charts. What about you? Oh my God, it's an urgent election notice. Holy cripes! If you're up before dawn, you may see Venus, which is just rising where I am, at a magnitude -4.0. It's my favorite planet, even though I'm an Aries. If you're in Aries, you might see Mars and the Moon right next to each other, which will make you think that you're going to get laid or something. I don't know. Next, looking at theplanetstoday.com. This is where stuff is today on October 30th. There's where things will be in a week, as Mercury's making short work of blowing past Venus. And full moon is tomorrow, folks. A full moon, blue moon, Hawaii. Wait, not Hawaii. A full moon, blue moon, Halloween. Yeah, that's right. Jeez. I must have gone to the Joe Biden school of thought. Next, looking at earthquakes of the past 24. To show a deep quake at Peru. It's a 4.9 magnitude at 148.9 kilometers of depth. We talk about earthquakes daily here on the Smash News Network. Even if there are none, we'll tell you that there are none. And we won't lie to you about there being some. Sorry to everybody who received a false tsunami warning. It all had to do with somebody posting a week-old video of Dutch synths and then me driving into a internet dead zone while still having cell phone coverage. So it was an interesting sort of early response, an interesting test to the early response systems. And one of my friends said, "Great, so California is going to be washed into the ocean?" Yes! Was not expecting that. So here's another deep quake at Colombia, deep quake at Tonga, 4.9 magnitude for the Tongan one. Those are both around 150 kilometers depth. Just scrolling up the list here, It's basically a lull in earthquakes, and we're still seeing a drought of 7, 8, and 9 magnitude earthquakes. If you're in a prone zone, please have a plan. There's a deep quake in western South America, a deep quake at Chile, another deep quake in western South America, that is. Pretty close to the last one. So, as I was saying, if you're in an earthquake-prone zone, areas such as these, please have an earthquake plan. Try to be an asset, not a disaster, in the event of one. Try to not be a liability in the event of a disaster. Have an earthquake plan, have a bug-out bag. Know which building facades may collapse if you exit yours. It could save your bacon. Another thing that could save your bacon is not building a campsite at the foot of a volcano. Cinnabung has been producing pyroclastic flows. Here are some lava flows, I think, and some pyroclastic flows there perhaps happening. It's tough to tell in a still image. Looking at volcanodiscovery.com today. What's currently erupting? Well, Karimsky is erupting on the Kamchatka Peninsula, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Sakurajima, 7,000-foot ash plume. Suwanosejima, 4,000-foot ash plume. Cinnabung, incandescent avalanches and pyroclastic flows, and it's pretty dangerous. Please do not attempt to pole vault Cinnabung. You could become part of the lithosphere, and another part of you could become part of the atmosphere. Don't do that. Semaru is producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. By the way, it's an 8,200-foot ash plume at Cinnabung. Dacono, flight level 070, 7,000 feet. No volcanic ash cloud observed at Ravenador, but indeed there is one at Sabancaya. It's producing a 23,000-foot volcanic ash plume. In Nevados de Chilean, reported an effusive explosive eruption, meaning there's a bunch of water vapor. And oftentimes, folks, water is associated with big eruptions. Next, looking at the U.S. weather.gov map to see a bunch of hard freeze warnings and frost advisories and wind advisories up in the northern Rockies. We've also got a typhoon here. That I'm showing you an 86-mile-per-hour wind speed out there in the western Pacific. And there you can see we've cited that 86-mile-per-hour typhoon there. That would be considered a hurricane if it was in the Atlantic. And we normally only look at the jet stream here, so let's get to that. And we show the same data every day, folks, so that people start to understand the way that the data relates to each other, see? That's the reason. It's not because I'm a boring idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. It's because these are the data that I would look at, so I share. And part of the reason I make the videos is to view them on a larger screen. Check out the extreme meridional jet stream bends in the southern hemisphere. Yowzers! Holy crow, it's spring. It's spring. Do you know where your jet stream is? Here are the jet streams of the west. And it looks like we've got a giant anticyclonic area here over Bermuda. Check out the anticyclone. And by the way, folks, high pressure systems are sort of the initial input into the atmosphere. I'm just putting it out there. And that's why we show the pressure maps after we show the jet stream. So you can see the entire eastern portion of the country is dominated by a massive high pressure system there. Probably anticyclonic in nature. We won't worry about it. And we're going to advance this into the GFS forecast. By the way, windy.com has a great mobile app as well. There's where things will be tomorrow at noon, and that high pressure is going to be directly over my head. It's going to be chilly and windy. Again, windy.com, great mobile app. Check it out. I'm not paid to say it. I'm just giving you good advice. We saw an errant lightning bolt out in the middle of the Pacific. Check it out. North of Hawaii. Hey, there's a big storm there, Hawaii. If you're viewing the video, go look to your north and northeast. Go take some time-lapse photography. Also some significant lightning here off of the Outer Banks. Shout out to our viewers from Virginia Beach, Weiser. Hey Weiser, leave us a comment if you're viewing the video. And here's all that lightning on the GOES 16 lightning mapper. Quite a consistent string of lightning bands there, as well as south of the Yucatan once again. There's been incredible amounts of lightning over the Caribbean and southern Mexico over the past week or two. An extended period of extreme lightning. I'm surprised you're not seeing more photos and videos of it, because it's quite extreme. Here are the remnants of Zeta, which are still raining down on me, although they're on their way out. So here's what's going on in the cloud layer, and I'm going to zoom in on myself for once. By the way, I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, for all you new viewers. Please leave us a comment if you're viewing from a different plane of existence, galaxy, solar system, spaceship, etc. And we use the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite shortwave radiation map to see clouds at nighttime. And check it out, it's the path of least resistance, which is why there's a bunch of lightning there, folks. Yes, yes, clouds are less massive than dry air. Were you aware of that? Well, we're glad to inform you. And you can see the jet stream is pushing some cold air down, and that's pushing Zeta off to the northeast. Please go away, I've seen enough rain. Yesterday was downright depressing. And we see a sudden northward flow here, probably because of that low pressure system. Check it out. It's actually pretty violent there, and that could actually speed up the mopping up of the mid-Atlantic states. And hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network. Thanks for flying American Smashways, etc. Please leave us a comment. Don't forget to share the content in your social media. Tell your friends, your foes, your science noobs, and science pros that we're doing live streams from the banks of the River Styx. Check out our Teespring store. You can link to it at smashomash.com. Again, today's featured shirt is the MANSA shirt in red. Don't forget to enter the promo code MANSA on all orders through October 31st to save 10%. Why would you not want to? Would you like a souvenir? Would you like to see our first piece of merch? Well, it's Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. If you want to make fun of the pathetic and infantile response mankind has had, thinking that it's going to mask the planet and somehow protect you from a virus, I don't know why you would think such a thing. It's a ridiculous notion. Smasher Price, My First Pandemic. Save 10% by entering the promo code MANSA through Halloween. Thanks for flying American Smashways, by the way. Keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane, because we've got bonus features. We're going to show the green 94 angstroms view. We're going to show you the colorized magnetogram and the intensity gram to show the latest on sunspot 2778 and 79. There is that pair. And frankly, they look like they've degraded since yesterday. Here's the intensity gram. And they look like they've degraded a little bit. I would say they've shrunk a little, which decreases the chance of solar flaring. However, their location increases the chance of solar flaring being measured from Earth. And it all has to do with the emissivity of black bodies and metals versus gaseous plasmas. We won't get into it today. It's the daily space weather video, not a cosmology segment. Here's the 94 angstroms view of the local yellow dwarf. That's 2 days of activity, and there are a bunch of solar flares in there, some C-class flares and so on. See those two active regions rising in the northeast and southeast? We are out. It is about that time. So thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it if you do, don't drive, and since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that atherosclerosis absent from your arteries. All right, bring it on, Stygian mosquitoes. Bring it on. Get you. I'm gonna get you. I get you. I get you. Oh man, I killed COVID.